You know, to have a late night comedy show, it has to be two things. It has to be funny and it has to have great musical guests. That's what Saturday Night Live did in its prime and its various good years, which have been hit and miss in recent years. But when Fridays came on, the ABC put a lot of faith in the musical artists that showed up. It included the first appearances of Stray Cats and Clash on American TV. But again, the show wasn't funny enough, and the skits, despite the fact there was numerous guest stars who were better than the cast, it really didn't hit home, and it was so bad, or didn't have an impact. It wasn't really distributed in Canada or internationally like it should. So today on Remote Control, we're going to be looking at Fridays, which ran on ABC on Friday nights from April 11, 1980 to April 23rd, 1982. And it basically didn't hit as well because when Nightline came on, which talked a lot about the Iran hostage crisis for numerous months, that's what really killed it. The program, again, was ABC's attempt to duplicate the success of NBC's Saturday Night Live, which at the time was in its fifth season, featuring the original not ready for primetime cast, along with several writers who would promote it to feature player status, as well as newcomer Harry Shearer. Like Saturday Night Live, Fridays featured popular musical guests, and beginning in the second season, celebrity guest hosts, some of which appeared on SNL before and after Fridays aired, such as Andy Kaufman, Billy Crystal, William Shatner, Mark Hamill, and George Carlin. Carlin, who had hosted the very first SNL in 75, was also Friday's first official guest host in 81. And this was by the second season or attempting it. The show featured many recurring characters and sketches, short films, and a parody news segment called Friday Edition, with Melanie Chardoff as the anchor, later joined by Rich Hall, who ended up on Saturday Night Live later on in seasons 2 and 3. Veteran comedian Jack Byrne serves as the show's announcer and made on-screen appearances on the show. Initially, the program was compared unfavorably to Saturday Night Live as a weak clone that resorted to shock humor for laughs. The third episode was the last episode to air in some affiliates due to objectionable content concerning zombie gore and cannibalism, the infamous Diner of the Living Dead, disgusting habits, women who spit, and blasphemous humor, the inflatable nun. You see worse on Saturday Night Live now, but this was like 1980-81. Now, when SNL's sixth season was met with negative reviews and low ratings over new cast, new writers, and a new showrunner, critics who once panned Fridays praised it, citing the show as being edgier, sharper, and funnier than Saturday Night Live at the time. And of course, you had an early Michael Richards and a fully coiffed Larry David as two of the key performers. There's even kind of a Kramer reference in a very famous beach episode with Chardoff. Now, some examples of the good skits include Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, a buddy comedy parody about the United States dealings with El Salvador called Road to El Salvador, a Close Encounters of the Third Kind parody about refugees from a Central American country mistaking a Playboy magazine location scout, an American military invasion for extraterrestrials come to save them, a Marx Brothers parody of Iran's revolution, Night in Tehran, Palestinian radio DJs, a live-action Robert Altman Popeye movie parody with Popeye and a band of first-wave hippies fighting back against a fascist regime led by Bluto, a variety show run by the Moral Majority, a parody of Altered States featuring Ronald Reagan. John Rourke played him to somewhat effectiveness. A spaghetti western centered on a creationism versus evolution argument featuring Don Novella, a former Saturday Night Live character, as Father Guido Sarducci, and what's considered the show's magnum opus, a 17-minute parody of Rocco Horry Picture Show with Ronald Reagan as Tim Curry's Dr. Frankenfurter. Now, unusual for a sketch comedy series at the time, the Fridays occasionally featured interludes and dramatic sketches, such as a segment that aired soon after the 81 assassination tape on Ronald Reagan, involving all 9 of the cast members recalling where they were at the time of the previous assassination attempts, and a sketch where a punk rocker, played by Michael Richards, visits his father, John Rourke, who rejects him by yelling, "Who are you? I have no son." Now, from its inception, Fridays embraced the emerging new wave rock music scene and associated culture to a greater extent than Saturday Night Live did at the time. And the crowd at the events had more energy than the skits themselves. Now, 3 seasons of Fridays, again, aired on ABC. The last episodes aired as a primetime sketch show. The show was originally 7 minutes in its first season, which is a weird time. It was expanded to 60 minutes in season 2 and 3. probably 70 minutes because 20 minutes of news and sports before they would take it back from the affiliates. Now, SNL executive producer Dick Ebersol, in a weird move, gave all Friday's cast members an offer to join SNL in '82, but most turned them down. Only Larry David, Kevin Kelton, and Rich Hall worked on SNL for a short time. After Fridays was completed, all of them worked on Saturday Night Live during its 10th season in '84. Hall was a cast member while David and Kelton were writers. Now, again, producers of Fridays included Jack Burns, and the writing staff, Larry Charles, Larry David, of course, and Michael Richards, later on Frasier. Now, the Melanie Chardoff to me stood out, and so did Michael Richards. Chardoff, very luminous and beautiful lady. Now, guest stars had a weird selection. Karen Allen, Valerie Bertinelli, Bo Bridges, Billy Crystal, Jamie Lee Curtis, Marty Feldman, Peter Fonda, Jeannie Francis, and Anthony Geary, because being ABC, Mark Hamill, George Hamilton, Valerie Harper, Mary Lou Henner, Gregory Hines, Tab Hunter in a very beautiful Bond parody where he played himself pretty much, Madeline Kahn, Andy Kaufman, of course, the infamous fake fight at the end, Lenny and Squiggy, David Naughton, Don Novella, Victoria Principal, Lynn Redgrave, Susan Sarandon, William Shatner in a very bizarre episode, Brooke Shields, Shelley Winters, and Henny Youngman. Musical guests now, bear with me, this is everybody showed up better in Saturday Night Live. AC/DC, The Beach Boys, Pat Benatar, The Blasters, Gary U.S. Bonds, Boomtown Rats, Jack Bruce and Friends, Jimmy Buffett, The Busboys, Kim Carnes, Jim Carroll, The Cars, Bill Champlain, Chubby Checker, The Clash, Bruce Coburn, Devo, Dire Straits, The Eagles, Steve Forbert, The Four Tops, Ranking the Knockouts, Rory Gallagher, David Grisham Quintet, Hart, Ian Hunter, The Jam, Al Jarreau, Jefferson Starship, Garland Jeffries, Journey, King Crimson, Kiss, Kool and the Gang, Huey Lewis and the News, Kenny Loggins, The Manhattan Transfer, Marshall Tucker Band, Paul McCartney, Rodney Meisner, Eddie Money, Ted Nugent, Graham Parker and the Rumor, Tom Petty, The Heartbreakers, The Plasmatics, The Pretenders, Quarter Flash, Bonnie Raitt, Arrow Speedwagon, Rockpile, Boss Gags, Scandal, Say the Sir Douglas Quintet, Sister Sledge, Split Ends, The Stray Cats, George Thorogood, The Destroyers, The Tubes, Billy Burr and the Beaters, Stevie Wonder, Warren Zevon, and Tommy Two-Tone. Now, AC/DC, which never appeared on American TV, can you imagine, like live, made their TV debuts on Fridays at Clash and Stray Cats. At the time of the Stray Cats' appearance, the band had yet to be signed by a record company. During the group's performance, there was a call at the bottom of the screen inviting officers from record companies. Now, 37, 40, 58 episodes, and like I said, by my basic math, there was unique performances all the time. I think The Cars was on twice. Now, but the February 20th, 1981 episode, it was kind of, we don't know if it's parody or not. It was repeated on The Man in the Moon. I'll do maybe a different podcast on that later. Now, the series ended following ABC's decision to expand Nightline to 5 nights a week, which moved Fridays to air at midnight instead of 11:30 p.m. This lasted from January to April '82, after which the show was dropped from ABC's schedule. Now, again, they tried primetime, it didn't work. Now, a few years after the show's cancellation, Fridays appeared in reruns on USA Network in the late 80s. However, they were edited down to 60 minutes, similar to how SNL was edited at the time for syndication. Now, the various YouTubers have uploaded, and you can watch some of the episodes, not all the episodes, on Tubi, Plex, and all that. And season 1 of Fridays is available to stream with ads on Amazon Prime Video this month. Now, again, I would give the show a 6 out of 10 because obviously some of the skits, you're not talking the same cast as Saturday Night Live, but they tried to do something that was more, it was like a lot of marijuana humors, like National Lampoon, but seeing Mark Hamill, William Shatner for what it was, but there was no way that this was going to be shown in Canada or international syndication, because Friday nights on CBC at the time, you were seeing more and more late night movies. Some places were showing Toronto Blue Jay baseball, so I mean you weren't going to bump the Blue Jays, especially from CTV, because the games would start at 8 and 8 to end at 11. So I mean nobody in Canada is going to wait till 12:30 on a Friday night, because most of us were partying at the time. Friday's a party night in Canada. That's why Fridays never went anyplace in my nation. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, but should see the performance of the Clash on this. It's amazing. From the 79, I think it's the third episode. It's quite good. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here with our TV tributes, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.